Alright guys, give me just a second to get everything set up here for you. Alright. Drop the link real quick so everybody's got it. Get over and pull this raid real quick. Alright. Let me pull up the list. There's quite a few tickers that people were wanting me to go through. So, open this, check this. Alright, I'm gonna start with Tesla. Make sure this is set. Let me turn. Alright. There we go. Now you can hear me. No background music, no nonsense. So we should be good. Where was I? Tesla. Yeah. So Tesla. Same thing as would have been warning about for a while that you want to be careful of with major news events on Tesla. So you can see we had this big gap down with the Robotaxi event last week. It was hyped and it was a lot of gimmicky stuff. I mean, it's cool. I'm still long Tesla, but I will keep selling covered calls where it makes sense. I didn't resell additional covered calls just yet because it doesn't make sense for me to sell them on a day where they're beat down. So I normally sell them, especially within these orange zones, which you can see here. Those are the ranges I like to sell covered calls in, right? And as you can see there, it basically works out perfectly. It has time and time again over the last 3+ years. So that is why I sell covered calls, where I sell them and then I sit patiently in those setups. It tends to work well, and I've actually grown and accumulated a lot more shares by doing so. What I'm watching for here on Tesla is going to be similar to, here I'll zoom in because the setup's going to be basically what you saw last earnings. You had an event, everything went on, right? And then we saw this big drop with earnings last time. We consolidated in this zone after a little bit of a rebound, and then we dropped lower, and then we went sub 200. So you want to be careful right now, because even with Robotaxi and everything, one of the key things that I'll call out that isn't really what it seems like most retail is expecting is that the Robotaxi initiative and basically any production related to that, you're not going to see any of the production until 2026. So any revenue generation that comes as a result of that is 2026, 2027, things like that, right? So Robotaxi event's not something that is like a near-term major driver, and it's definitely not going to have some kind of significant impact on earnings for the upcoming earnings, which we have here on the 23rd. So what you want to be careful of here is trading flat as we get people that try to jump into call options on the rebound. What they normally will do on these setups, and I need to go check the flows just to confirm it's still the same. I didn't look at it very much today, but normally you get like little pops, and on those little pops, that's where you'll see the whales selling more covered calls. And whenever they do that, they either trade flat or they let it tank, and then they buy to close the position when you have IV crush event or a big drop. So watch out for IV crush with earnings. This is not one of those buy the dip situations with Tesla. It's dangerous to buy calls here on Tesla for a lot of reasons, but just because we've got this gap here, y'all know how I feel about gap fills and how they typically happen. That being said, be careful, because there's no guarantee this gap builds now. It could fill 2 years down the road. So I'm watching this because the major things I want to see on Tesla, we already broke down from this trend after the retest. I'm watching this trend line here that you can see is our current uptrend since, what was that, April? Because if we break down and break that trend, that actually lays out this measured move here from a couple of months back after the retrace, which would put us in that 172 range. And there's a gap down here that hasn't been filled. But on a larger time frame, sorry, I can't talk. I have tons of meetings today. Can't talk anymore. Let's look at the weekly, right? So, like I've been mentioning, the bigger concern here of, yes, we broke out from the downtrend and we attempted the retest, and this could be a retest here before upside movement. That being said, we haven't seen that yet. And if anything, you've got Tesla right now heading into the second IV crush event on its radar, as well as Robotaxi, which we've all kind of seen has been a big letdown. And Robotaxi is a prime example of something we've seen since Q1 and Q2 of this year, being hyped all year by retail masses, and in reality, we're not really seeing a lot of great things. So, what is also going on here on the monthly? And this is the more important thing from a most basic standpoint that you want to look at with the trend, is you've got a higher high, a lower low, a lower high, after that lower low, right? And then you've got what appears it could be a higher low. That being said, we don't know that yet because we don't yet have a higher high above this. Okay, so for this downtrend to be invalidated, it would need to have a higher high above this level, which we have yet to see. So until we see that, this is still a downtrend that is intact, even though we get these little peaks above the trend line, just like what you saw back here with the earnings in July. See the wick? We wicked above it, we pushed above it, candle technically closed above it, and then it rejected back under. And then it recuperated some with all the hype around Robotaxi event, and then here we are again, potentially going to reject back under that downtrend line. So, keeping an eye on this, I'm still going to maintain my shares long term. I'm still going to sell covered calls when it makes sense and it's favorable for me as an option seller. But you want to be really careful here. This isn't like a go long on calls, because calls can get the premiums burned very, very badly on Tesla if you try to swing them. It's different. If I'm holding shares, I'm selling covered calls against that. That's actually favorable for me as an option seller, right? So that makes sense. I won't trade a lot of calls or puts on Tesla in this range for the same reason I mentioned last week why I didn't trade puts on the rejection, because the premiums are really spiked right now and the risk to reward just doesn't make sense for me. So I'll be watching this setup, especially as we roll into earnings on the 24th, right? 23rd, sorry. We'll see what happens there. Let me look real quick over at this list because Tony asked me for some, and yeah, Analyzer, I don't know if you're on, but yeah, yes, I can. So I can look through a few. Tony, it looks like a lot of the tickers you got there, stuff you've taken from alerts over the last like 3 or 4 weeks, which have been giving awesome gains. So let me just start from the top and work my way down your list, because it looks like there's going to be some overlap. If I look at the daily for AI, right? Look at this. So similar to so many of these other setups that we're trading right now, where we saw a breakout of a downtrend or retest, and then just a rip off of that. So riding the bullish momentum up here, you now have a situation where on AI as well, it's broken out of this downtrend line, and it retested. If I jump to the 4 hour, you can see it probably a bit better. Actually, I guess it's not much cleaner and easier to see, but hopefully you can see it here. So we got the downtrend breakout here, retest. You want to see it hold this level, and from here, you're looking at the price target probably in that 30.90 range, which is a resistance level. So that's looking good. We are in some swing calls. I don't remember what the date is on them. I probably just glance at that, but I'm still riding some. I think I trimmed to cover my cost basis on them already, so I'll ride the runners out. I've got plenty of time to do so. Shop. If there's more tickers you want me to do like more deep dive into later, I can. The shop, yeah, we're in calls for shop as well. It had a nice little breakout. First price target, we tagged that already. Looks like we tagged the second price target. Can't recall if I trimmed the calls. I should know that. Pretty much I can guarantee you if I was up 50% or more, I trimmed them. To cover my cost basis minimally. If you're at 100%, you need to be selling half of your position to cover your full cost basis and ride the runners. Just play smart, protect your capital, right? So, right here, this levels I'm watching on shop. I'll drop them in the ticker specific channel so that y'all have them as well. But yeah, it's still in the uptrend. It's still in the breakout mode. I'd like to see it hold that support and then keep pushing higher from there until So yeah, I took some lotto calls on Intel just in case it decides to break out like a really small lotto position. I'm not going to swing longer term calls on Intel yet just because it could still break to the downside, but I saw some bullish options flow, so I jumped into lotto calls just in case it gets a breakout to the upside of this setup here. I would love to see some kind of news come through that pushes it to rip up to this 2905 level. That'd be great too, but I believe it when I see it type thing, right? So we're in some $25 short dated calls just as a kind of a gamble play. But that's the levels I'm watching on Intel. It's still in a bear flag and a kind of bearish setup on a larger time frame. Veil. So Veil is a little bit different than what you're used to trading on other things. Oh, did I drop for a second? See, I'm back online now. Y'all hear me okay? Looks like my OBS studio crashed for a second, but I think it's back. Alright, cool. Analyzer, I think you're listening in for hymns. You want to confirm for me that I'm back on the live stream? All good? Yep. If not, I'll keep rolling. It'll record it and then y'all can watch it after. But yeah, we entered $90 calls on that retest at the breakout. That worked really well. I trimmed to cover my cost basis. I'm still running some runners here because you can see the measured move for this bull flag breakout. A little spotty. Yeah, I don't know what's up, man. With the connection for some reason. But I'll keep cranking for you guys. Yeah, so you can see here's my price target. And going from PayPal, what's next? SoFi. So this was awesome. We've been trading calls and shares on SoFi multiple times lately, but we did freaking awesome on these. So y'all have heard me on the live stream talk about SoFi for quite a few weeks now because I was tracking this inverse head and shoulders setup that we had after this breakout of the downtrend. And the measured move for it is my green price targets that you can see here, which look, we perfectly tagged. So not only did it tag the price targets quicker than we expected, it blew to those price targets. So our calls ripped, our shares ripped. I think we're up like 30% on the shares at the moment. So that shows you can make big gains on these tickers that it's not so expensive to trade. I know a lot of people are hell-bent on like trading SPY and QQQ and NVDA and Tesla and all these bigger tickers, but you don't have to trade those big expensive tickers, and honestly most people probably shouldn't because the option premiums are too expensive for you to learn lessons on. So there's tickers out there that have nice setups, and you might hear people complain about penny stocks, but a lot of stocks like AMD were at $30-something a couple of years ago before the rip. I'm sorry, NVIDIA. I'm not comparing NVIDIA to all these other tickers. That being said, if the underlying technicals are there, the options data is there, the fundamentals are there, there's nothing wrong with trading smaller price tickers. So SoFi's ripping. I trimmed to cover my cost basis on the calls, and I will ride them out just because this thing could potentially just keep on ripping at this point. I'd like to see it get above this resistance level and get more in that historical range. I need to go chart out the historical range up there. What I will do to hedge my share position here soon is I will sell covered calls against the shares so that I hedge and protect the gains that I have against the shares in case we see some downside. And I'll sell it for a strike that's high enough that like I've got room, and I'll sell it far enough out to where I can buy to close the covered call position if I need to. Let me see, what was the next one? So SoFi, Lyft. So Lyft is in this nice little uptrend, as well as got this nice breakout of the downtrend here, followed by a retest. So I'm watching this trend. This thing could actually pop off nicely from this level. So it does have earnings coming up, it looks like, on November 5th. You want to keep an eye on that, but it could see a lot more upside, especially if it pushes up above that $14 range. Same thing on the calls I'm in for Lyft. I think that, I forget what the expiration is, I think they're November even. I'll probably ride out the runners at this point and just see what happens because I've already covered my cost basis plus net profit, which is kind of, if you've been following me, you know that that's my way of trading on most of these things. I'm not going to gamble and ride the entire position in hopes that it works out okay. So I'm going to trade smart, cover my cost basis, and then ride runners. Let's see. Just a second. Palantir. So Palantir, same thing as what I mentioned last week. It's still bullish, the setup, even though you feel the pullback, right? So consolidation and potential another bull flag here to break out more to the upside. I know Chris and some others are watching that 45 level too. That's kind of the range where I was holding off and really want to wait to sell my covered calls at, is at that 45 level. If I see a bigger rejection, I might go ahead and sell some. The main thing I'm watching here are these minor support levels to see if we reject below them, especially that $42 to $43 range. So I will watch that closely. See what happens. Right now it's still in a bullish breakout. So that one's still looking good. Let's see. PMs for analyzer. I think I started to chart it for you a while back. Yeah, I did. Okay. Hey, look, full flat breakout. I don't know if you followed that one or not after you traded that previous time, but yeah, so you got that breakout there. It looks like we did reject at that 2060 level again. So I would just kind of watch this to see, does it consolidate in this zone and break out higher, or does it reject here and drop to fill that gap below, because there is a gap now here. So if I mark this, so we have it as a reference point. Okay, you got that. There's a lot of bullish volume there, so it might get continuation into earnings, but I haven't been trading this a whole lot myself. I'm not super familiar with the ticker. I might trade it some depending on what I see. Let's see what other AMD. Yeah. AMD, same thing, right? I started phasing into some January calls on AMD because we got the breakout of the downtrend, retest the downtrend, consolidation right here in the zone. I think that it's important, and this is a good example to use because you can't expect stuff to just non-stop rip up. I know NVDA did that for periods of time, but that type of movement actually is kind of not healthy for a stock. So seeing consolidation after a breakout's good. You can see it's still holding this uptrend at the moment, so that's good. But yeah, I'd be looking for it to hold this support range and move higher. Maybe fill that gap at 174.53. From there we'll go, but I need to add to my January calls soon. Wait and see and make sure this support holds first. If it does break to the downside and rejects back into that trend, same thing as what we talked about on Tesla, right? You've got a high and then a low, and then we haven't pushed for a higher high yet. So I'll be looking to see if it actually can make that newer high there before I add to anything that's a longer term swing that's more expensive. So watching AMD for the setup here. Riot. Oh yeah, Riot's like one of my favorite tickers. Y'all know how I feel about crypto. So Riot's got all kinds of bullish stuff going on right now, as well as most crypto tickers, but you've got inverse head and shoulders there. You got a bull flag breakout going on over here. You can see that we've been trading Riot calls, so I'm in some. We hit our price target there, second price target there. Yeah, I'll do Mara for sure, analyzer. I'll hit a couple of crypto tickers real quick. Sorry for talking really fast. Y'all can slow down the recording if you need to. I'm trying to crank through it before go to the family. But yeah, Riot, I'm looking for it to hold this range and push higher. Once it rips into this range, it can very quickly go to that $12 to $13 range. So that's the beauty of a lot of these crypto tickers, is they can get really volatile off these bounces. So definitely going to ride out the Riot calls there. Mara, same thing, right? And keep in mind, Riot, Mara, both mining companies, that's how they get majority of their revenue. We'll look at MicroStrategy here in a second because that's another one of my favorite tickers that y'all have seen me trade. But you can see we're in a little bit of a different chart setup on Mara, but still overall inverse head and shoulders, bullish with crypto momentum. It will push up. I'll be looking for a test of this trend line to see what happens there. I'll circle back on that, but MicroStrategy. So we got the breakout. We traded off this bull flag breakout here. You can see after the breakout, you got to retest. So this is healthy movement. This is actually really good. Somebody asked earlier today about puts on MicroStrategy, and no, I didn't trade them because for me the risk to reward wasn't there. It could have easily bounced anywhere along the way in that zone, and for me the risk to reward just not there, especially when all the other crypto tickers were green and Bitcoin's in a pretty bullish setup at the moment. I didn't want to risk trading puts on it, so you can keep that in mind next time you think I'm a perma bull or perma bear or something. That like typically I'll trade whatever direction makes sense as long as the options make sense for the movement. But I'd like to see MicroStrategy hold this level. That'd be beautiful if it can. I wish I would have bought and held more of my longer term calls. I think it was 120 calls for 2025 that I was in way back here, and I sold them early. I should have wrote them out. But yeah, real quick, I'm gonna look at Bitcoin. And so you can see the setup because it's awesome. So similar to what I was trading this weekend showing y'all, you got this awesome bull flag going on here. You've got an inverse head and shoulders going on here. It's pushing above this resistance right now. You want to watch for a breakout of this bull flag and then a confirmation. The green arrow or green lines being our bull flag conservatively. Yeah, that looks crazy, but that is the measured move for that bull flag breakout. It's like 120k-ish for Bitcoin. So you didn't miss the entry on more calls today, Analyzer. You got plenty of time. Like I think especially 2025 options, March timeframe, January timeframe, a lot of these crypto tickers are going to be very profitable. I'm just phasing into mine, so I'll be adding more to quite a few of these tickers. So yeah, the setups are all still bullish here. Bitcoin's looking amazing. I think a lot of people are waiting to see how the election turns out to trade that. Speaking of election, before I look at any other crypto, let's look at DJT. So let's talk about the calls that we got last week on freaking Donald Trump. Like, I usually wouldn't trade it. I trade it because Deej, honestly. And I saw some options movement that was interesting to me, and we entered some $26 calls last week on the initial upside move, and they have just continued to rip to the point that they hit what they hit today. I need to go back and look again. 665% gains. That's sick. So, prime example, you can trade a lotto like that, like a single contract or something, and still make awesome gains. Like, don't YOLO your account on stuff like that. That's how you blow up an account, but there's nothing wrong with trading those higher risk lottos like that. So yeah, that was crazy. It was fun. Let's see, one more ticker or two. See if there's any people are specifically requesting. Rodbull, I didn't know that you got puts on Bank of America. I wish you wouldn't have, because I saw so much bullish momentum flow for it today. And I saw the chart setup was ripping too. I didn't chase it, but what do we got here? I don't remember what we were even trading with this. Am I selling calls for Bank of America? No, that's when we traded the puts on the rejection and the break of the downtrend like several months ago. Okay, I'm gonna delete them now. We're not using them anymore. So like there's a lot of bullish flow going on right now at Bank of America for some reason. Which you can see it actually pushed up, but over on Unusual Wells, I saw the options for it too. So I'm not trading puts on that right now, especially being right above that key support level. Like, oh wait, Jose. It'll be interesting to see what happens there with all the bank earnings this week. If something dumps hard, it's probably going to take it with it. Yeah, I can do coin real quick and I'll call it. It's Coinbase. Look at that beautiful downtrend breakout. So I've been watching the setup on Coinbase for a while. I'm going to switch over the weekly to show you because it's just sexy. You got a cup and handle set up here. That candle formed, and then we held that trend, and then we got the breakout. So what you want to see here is a move to the upside of these previous highs. So if this thing gets above like that 255 range with momentum and can push above 281, we could see some real skyrocket action go on. Like in the 350s range, right? So all kinds of potential on that setup. I don't remember if I closed out my call position for next year on coin or not. I think I've been in too many positions and now I can't remember, and that's not good because I'm trading on like 5 accounts. But let's see. I think I sold all my coin calls, so I'll have to re-enter if we get a confirmation of breakout. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that and see where we go from there. Hey, I'll go ahead and wrap it up just since it's getting late. And if there are other tickers y'all want me to take a look at, let me know. And I can either do a video or I can just pull the charts for you and get them. But if you're new here, thanks for listening. If there's any questions or anything you have, always happy to help.